I'm Shea Hess, and on this episode, we're filling up on kale. Now, what do nutritious leafy greens, city rooftops, and delicious pizza have in common? Well, you're about to find out. Our kale quest will take us to the country's first urban rooftop farm, then to one of the hottest pizza joints in town. Finally, we'll head to the kitchen for a kale pizza you won't be able to resist. So let's do this, shall we? Eagle Street Rooftop Farm is an entirely organic green roof that supplies outstanding homegrown produce to its Brooklyn community. Farmer Annie Novak knows her greens and is here to fill us in on all things kale.
Kale is a dark leafy green. It's in the same family as broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, collards. They're called the brassicas. Popular varieties, there's probably about 3 or 4. We grow at least 2 of them. We're doing a flat leaf dinosaur kale, Lacianato. It's a beautiful baking kale, and then we do the red Russian.
What is the season for kale?
In New York, you can get kale year-round. I think it tastes really, really lovely and sweet towards the colder ends of the year. When the weather is cooler, the plants hold their sugar in their leaves, and it sweetens the kale. So a December kale out of rich organic loam is some of the best you'll ever eat.
How do you ensure that the kale that you're getting is a fresh bunch?
I mean, the easiest way to know that your food is fresh is to buy local. You walk up to the farmer and you say, "When did you harvest this?" And they'll say, "At 5 this morning," and be really angry at you, but it's good to know. And I think when I'm looking for vegetables, particularly leafy greens, I look for leafy greens that have, I don't know, I can just show you, but this is a good, upright, healthy plant. All the water in the cells is still present, it's very fresh, it has a little bit of sap coming out of the end. The longer it's off the plant, the more vitamins it's losing. So it's important to look for a plant that looks like it's still alive even though it's been cut.
Is kale an expensive vegetable? Is it reasonably priced? What can you expect when you go to a farmer's market?
My expectations with food are that the amount of money I pay is something that's nutritious for me, and kale is one of the best dark leafy greens for your body. It's a lot of iron, it has 17 times more calcium than milk per pound. So in terms of value, if you get a bunch of kale for $3 and you can make 2 dinners out of it, I think that's an exceptionally good use of money.
Thanks, Annie, but now I'm hungry. Luckily, one of Brooklyn's hottest new pizza joints is right around the corner. Paulie Gee's is gaining quite the reputation for its Neapolitan-style pies with inventive toppings. And Paulie Gee himself is here to show us how he does some serious justice to Annie's kale.
I have this thing where I want to use Rooftop Farms produce as much as I possibly can. And right now, she has this beautiful kale.
This is a little bit smaller than what I see in the grocery store in a big stock.
It's really
so what
like
is the difference
baby
between
kale.
this?
It's picked very young.
And does that affect the flavor of it?
Absolutely. It's more tender. It's more flavorful. You know, it's like anything you eat before it's full bloom.
I suppose the first step is preparing the kale, right?
Actually, no. The first step is getting it delivered by bicycle. I put a basket of it, and then we take it and we de-stem it, and then from there we brine it or marinate it in some extra virgin olive oil and some Sicilian sea salt.
Why do you marinate the kale rather than taking these, once I de-stem it here, why am I not going to throw this right on the pizza?
Because when you put the kale in the oven, if it doesn't have oil on it, it's just going to crisp up and you're going to have ash and sausage pizza.
Oh, that doesn't sound so good.
No.
Show us how to make this rooftop pie.
With pleasure. The first thing you need to do is stretch out the dough a little bit.
Okay.
Take some of the cheese, we'll spread it out nicely. I put the sausage underneath, it keeps it a little moister.
Okay.
But then I'll also put a little bit on top for visual effect. Now we're going to cover it with some kale. Now it's ready to go in the oven.
That's it. That's all
it.
you had to do.
That's it.
Well, that's easy. It seems like anybody can do this.
They can, absolutely can.
All right, let's put this in the oven. Paulie's pies only get a 75 to 90 second stint in the oven. Why so short? Because those temps reach up to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
When it is very hot like that, you notice these beautiful little leopard spots.
Yeah.
The crust firms up on the outside and locks the moisture on the inside, so you get a very nice chewy crust but crisp on the outside.
Now, I may not have a Naples-made wood-burning pizza oven, but I do have my trusty Frigidaire gas oven and Paulie's expertise on what makes kale amazing on pizza. So we're gonna do a little twist on Paulie Gee's famous rooftop pie. The first step to getting this pizza going is to marinate the kale. We have some beautiful Lacianato kale here, and what I need to do is remove the rib from each one of these leaves. This is a little bit too fibrous to put onto a pizza, and it just won't taste good when you bite into it. So now that we have all the ribs removed, we're just gonna chop it up so you get nice bite-sized pieces of kale. The next thing I'm going to add to my kale is a very thinly sliced red onion, and you want to just shave it as thin as possible. It's okay if they're not in perfect pieces. It'll add a really, really nice flavor, but it won't be too overpowering because the onion is really sliced so thin. So the last thing we need to add to this is the marinade itself. You want to use about 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil, just enough to coat the kale. And then, my secret ingredient, just a splash of red wine vinegar, a pinch of sea salt, about 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Get in there with your hands. Now that my kale's marinated, it's time to roll out the dough. I just went to my local pizzeria, and for $3, they gave me one that was just made. It's our little secret. So what you want to do is flour your workspace, and this is a really giant ball of dough here, so I'm going to cut it in half. So now that my dough is ready to go, I'm going to build the rest of it on my pizza peel. It's not necessary for you to have one of these, but it does make it a little bit easier for you to transfer it to the oven once it's all set. So I'm going to flour the peel and then put my dough right on it. The next step is to get the mozzarella all ready. And of course you have to taste it to make sure it's good. It's good. So I'm going to slice this as thin as possible because I really don't want it to weigh down the pizza because we have such a thin crust. Perfect. So now it's time for the main attraction, the kale. Liberally top your pizza. The kale's going to cook down a little bit, so it might seem like a lot of green vegetables, but I promise you, it's delicious. And last but not least, pancetta. Now this hasn't been cooked yet. I asked my butcher to slice it really thin, and in the amount of time this pizza cooks, it will crisp up in the oven, which is why we're putting it on the top. Perfect. I think it's ready to go in the oven. So I've preheated my oven to 500 degrees with the pizza stone in it. So I'm going to go ahead and slide it right into the oven. Look at that. Perfect restaurant-style pizza right in my own kitchen. Time to give it a taste. It's so good. I could eat this whole pie. What? It's good for you. See you next time on Hungry in Brooklyn.